Hi everybody. There are two vitamins that I think are important in terms of supplements, and I'll explain why. They are vitamin B12 and vitamin D. So we'll talk about vitamin B12 now. So vitamin B12 has an important function in our body, and I'm not going to go into what different functions are, but just briefly, it has important role in terms of blood and blood-related functions, in terms of brain activity and thinking and that sort of thing. So one of the symptoms of low vitamin B12 are fatigue and cloudy mind or difficulty in thinking. All right, so where does vitamin B12 come from? Okay, so it actually comes from a bacteria. There's a bacteria in the soil that produces vitamin B12, and we take him up in different ways. We can absorb into the body. All right, so if bacteria that produces vitamin B12 grows in the soil, how come we don't get it through vegetables? All right, first thing, when we use pesticides and herbicides, we kill the bacteria. So in other words, anything that's living in the soil is killed because of those fertilizers, fungicides, and so on. So as a result of that, those bacteria don't get a chance to produce vitamin B12 that can be taken up by the plants. And the other problem is when plants are taken, for example, root vegetables like carrots, what do? We clean them, we wash them thoroughly, and then they're packaged and sent, 1,000 miles, and until we get them. Especially in Canada, we get a lot of fruit from around the world, a lot of vegetables from around the world. So in that process, the bacteria die. All right, so how come animals have vitamin B12? Because typically vegans or people who don't have any kind of animal product are suggested that they should have vitamin B12. Why? So the obvious reason is that animal food has vitamin B12. So where did it get there? How did it get there in the first place? So the way it gets in there is the same way it gets into human beings, is through the plants that the animals eat, and then those bacteria then live in the gut of the animals, and that's where they produce B12, and then vitamin B12 is then absorbed into the body, in the muscles and blood of the animal, and that's how we get it. Same thing in the milk as well. Sometimes it's actually there are a lot of foods that are fortified, so vitamin B12 is artificially added into the foods, like cereals, for example, and milk. Soy milk has vitamin B12. Soy milk, almond milk, if it's or even actually there's one other thing, nutritional yeast. So these are all supplemented. They're inserted into the food. All right, so it comes from the ground, and so here's the thing: if we eat organic food or food that is not completely sanitized, this, for example, there's some dirt left on the carrots, it's possible that that food will have um, vitamin B12 producing bacteria in it. So there is some data, there's some research that's showing that if the soil is organic and it has got the bacteria that produce vitamin B12, then some of it can be absorbed through the roots into the plant. But this is all preliminary research. So until such a time when we get organic vegetables that have vitamin B12, I think if you're not eating meat, you should depend on vitamin B12 supplements. So that's a smart thing to do, and a lot of doctors recommend that as well. So vitamin B12 comes in different forms, and depending on how you like it. For example, some people have real hard times swallowing pills. So if you don't like that, then you can get the chewing ones, or ones that you put under your tongue and you get absorbed. And this is especially important for people who have digestive difficulties, because they may not absorb vitamin B12 well. In those cases, it's good to put that under the tongue. You can also get shots, especially if you have celiac or some kind of absorption problem. So there you go, folks. If you are eating predominantly vegetable, plant-based whole food, and not eating a lot of fortified foods like fortified cereals and such, it's probably a good idea for you to take a vitamin B12 shot. All right, be well, think well, and be full of energy.